Okay, so this is our last expression lesson, which is about maintaining accuracy. So on the book, it's actually, I think it's the second to last, the last one being the translation. But as I told you before, I've put the translation at the front because I thought it made more sense. In any way, this is our last lesson. So maintaining accuracy, what it really means, maintaining accuracy, it means polishing your text, making sure that there is more accurate than inaccurate. It's not everything than just learning the structures. We need to make sure that they're actually correctly formed and all that stuff. So that's what we want to make sure here, like to really pay attention to the details, be a perfectionist a little bit. That's kind of a negative word, but in a general note, to try and polish it and proofread your work until it's perfect. So we'll do that here in this chapter by being aware of the words that must be included in French, but not necessarily in English. Also making sure that we have the correct verb forms and also that we put the object pronoun in the right place, in the right order. There are more things that you will need to check to really proofread your text and make sure that it's all accurate. But that are the three main things. I mean, if you want to think about other things, you have, adjectival agreement, making sure that you have put an E and S when it's feminine and plural. You have making sure you've put the right tense at the right place, making sure that your time phrases are accurate, these kind of things. But these 3 points are the main points that I would like to focus on today. So if you have a look at the Get Started, the first exercise is about how to notice. Okay, so in the Get Started, we want you to notice accuracy and inaccuracy, so you can do it yourself. So first exercise is how to notice between the English, which one is correct, which one is what Olivia has actually written. And the second exercise is more in-depth here. So I'm going to zoom in. There we are. So we have sentences that she has written in her text. So first of all, you need to find this equivalent in her text. So whatever is written here, for example, 2 problems that worry us, you need to find that in the text. And then you need to decide what structure she has used to express this. So if it's a que, to introduce an opinion, if it's a direct object pronoun, indirect object pronoun, and all that jazz. So basically, just being aware of the structure that you're using, because the rules, depending on the structures, are different, of course. So that's the first thing I would like you to do. So once you've done that, you've pressed pause and you've went all through this. The first page here is to watch out for words, like, the little words. It's never big keywords, the problem, because you will not, or very rarely, forget a keyword. The problem here is small little words. These words that don't necessarily translate in English. So the one that you wouldn't really write in French straight away because you wouldn't think about them. So here, if you have a look at the page, it gives you a number of little words that you might use, like articles, like the. Sometimes you use the in French, you don't use it in English. Actually, most of the time you would use it in French, but not necessarily in English. So I take an example. For example, I play piano. I play piano. In French, you would have to say some kind of the or a. You'd say je joue du piano. So you have to put an article in front. It kind of tells you all the information that you need to know about the object that is coming after. So du, here that it's masculine and it's singular. So in French, it is compulsory to actually put this, except for jobs. And that's the only thing that I told you I think it was in Grammar 1. When you're talking about jobs, for example, je suis prof, I am a teacher. Here in English, you say I am a teacher. In French, you wouldn't say it, but that's probably the only exception. The rest of the time, you definitely need to put some kind of article, so either the or a or some in front of the noun that you're talking about. but in English you might not have to do that. So being really careful about including words in French that you don't necessarily use in English, like that, for example. So I think, yeah, in the first exercise, I talked to you about that. In spoken English, less in written English, but in spoken English, you don't necessarily use it all the time. That you say, right, I think it's late. You don't necessarily write, I think that is late. In French, you would. So there are like little words that you need to include in French and you don't necessarily need to use in English. So that's what this first page is all about. I hope you understand a bit better with my explanation. I'm going to let you pause that video and do that page on your own, and then I'll find you in page 2. Right, and if you're done page, like this, get started on page 1 already, moving on to page 2 now. This is about how to use the correct verb form. So we've already talked about how to use the correct tense, making sure that you use the perfect when you're in the past, the future when you're in the future, and all that kind of things. Here, making sure that you use the right verb. So first of all, you have a few questions that you need to ask yourself. What kind of verb is it? Is it a ER verb, an IR verb, an RE verb? Is it regular? Is it irregular? So you could have a word that looks like an IR verb, like take avoir, okay? Finish with IR. Looks like an IR verb, but actually it is so irregular that it hurts. So you can't actually use it like an IR verb. So you need to be aware of these kind of things and to pay attention to it. My advice, you can't really do it in translation, but in your normal question 1 and 2 text, my advice would be to use verbs and vocab that you know how to use. Like, if that's what I said at the beginning of the course, like you can take risk, and risk taking is good, but then during your exam you're trying to stick your points and you don't have that much space or that much time to actually show off your skills. So the best thing here, especially if you've learned so much and you revise so much, is to actually use structures that you know and verbs that you know. So if you know that a verb is irregular and you know how to use it, well, then definitely use it. But if there's a word that you're not really clear, you know it exists, but you're not quite sure how to use it, a verb, then my advice would be to go for something else. Here again, you don't need to tell the truth. No one actually minds if you're lying, as long as you're staying in the topic of your answer and your question, and you actually give a well-written answer. So here my advice would be to make sure that you have the right verb group, the right people. Are you talking about a she, a he, a they? Do you need to add an e for feminine? What's the ending for nous? What's the ending for vous? Not to get confused between the ONT, which is the ending of they, and the ONS, so the ending of they in the future, and the ONS, which is the ending of us, for example. So just a lot of just ask yourself questions before you write anything. Is it the right group? Which person am I talking about? Okay. And then if you're using a tense where you need to know the root of the verb, like the imperfect, for example, then to make sure that you know the stem that you need to use. That's basically what this page is about. So to verb forms and making sure that you have it right. It's not going to come like overnight. Most of it will be practice. It's like you are doing it so much that all the little things become automatic. So this page is not going to make you accurate. It's not going to make you fluent. But practicing on a few verbs every now and then is. So don't hesitate to do that. And then the last page is about so making sure you put your object pronoun in the correct place in the right order. So I know most of you have hated the grammar lesson about pronouns, and object pronoun is a bit of a nightmare. So what you should have done from that lesson is to learn your word order. So I'm not going to repeat it here. If you have a doubt, please go back to your pronoun lesson, which was in week 7, and make sure that you are learning by heart the word order. It's not that big. It's just like, the direct object and indirect object pronoun that goes in different places depending on which people you're talking about. So make sure you revise that, you know that, because an object pronoun that is well placed looks really smart. An object pronoun that is placed in a weird place in a sentence is just, you just can't understand it. That's basically what this page is about. So putting object in the right place. Here again, if you're not clear, just go back to your lesson, week 7. I'm going to let you do this. It is quite self-explanatory, and we've worked so much on pronoun that I'm pretty sure this page is going to be quite easy for you. But it's just something to keep in mind when you're writing your text, and it will make you accurate. You don't want to look silly in front of your examiner by using a very complex structure, but in a wrong way. And then that will be your sample answers, so sample response, sorry. And the your turn. So here again, I'm going to let you do that because that's a your turn question. So as I said earlier, accuracy is not going to come overnight. It's practice. It's just something that you need to be aware of, like little steps, little proofreading. Basically, the rules are when you finish writing anything, proofread. When you've done proofreading, proofread again. When you've done proofreading, proofread again. And once you proofread that 3 times, then you're sure that whatever you have written, I won't say it's 100% accurate, but at least it is accurate to the most of what you can do. So that's my best advice. Just read it 3 times after. Even if that sounds silly for you, maybe you were tired and maybe some details just went through. But anyway, I just let you go with it. Practice this. And I can't wait to see your exam style question on the email for submitting your work.